Hi all, this is Sandee Gertz, the Pink Typewriter Poet, and also for my blog Matters of Place. I have a little bit of a beginning poetry prompt for you, although this could lead into hybrid work or maybe even some CNF, creative nonfiction, or really could lead to any other prose work, but it's mainly designed for poetry. And this is really designed for beginning poets, or really anyone who needs to ground themselves and surround themselves with images, which, as you know, are the heart and soul of contemporary poetry. So I do this with my students a lot. We sort of, write ourselves into the room. And I really feel like this exercise kind of guarantees you to get something. I would keep whatever you get from this journaling or prompt exercise. I call this a little bit of both. I would save whatever you get and keep these images that we're going to collect into something like an image bank. That's what I ask my students to do. So I hope that you will consider doing that as well. So, okay, let's get started. So the first thing that you want to do is to open up your notebook. I think it's great to do this by hand, but if you want to do it in a laptop, you can. And I want you to write down start a list of images, just images. Don't have to go on a free write, don't have to do anything else, but list the images. And these are images that for this exercise, later we'll do ones from the past, but these are pretty recent. So these would be images if it's a Monday, say, and you're feeling very uninspired, take some images from your weekend, okay? So they don't have to be dazzling. They don't have to be amazing. If it's somewhere in the middle of the week, like the last few days. And a lot of times people say, oh, well, I don't have any images, nothing. I haven't done anything. I'm just driving to school, coming home, or driving to work and coming home. However, I would offer that many of the images that you see on a daily basis are pretty profound and can make their way into a poem. So, example, I always try to practice what I preach, but I'm going to go way back to I was either early high school or maybe even junior high, and I always was writing poems as far back, I guess, as I can remember. Pretty bad ones, I'm pretty sure. But I was sitting in a very plain mill town in Western Pennsylvania in a pretty plain classroom, and I think the subject was social studies. Sorry, Mr. Wagner. But I was looking out the window to it wasn't even snowing, so there's no snow imagery. It's just like cold, stripped winter trees and branches, and just one drab brown bird. And I always say, in Western PA, we didn't get the colorful birds. We have these plain drab brown birds. And there was one on a stripped bare branch. And I remember taking my pen and just feeling as insignificant as a brown bird on a branch, or something like that. I mean, it was probably ended up being an awful poem. I don't know. I was probably 10 to 13 or something like that. But that brown bird and that image of looking out that window that day stayed with me and made its way into some poetry in the end. So take that and think, all right, what if if you're just driving to school or to work, what are you seeing along the side of the highway? Did you see something abandoned? Did you see an item abandoned on the side of the highway? Hopefully you're not going to be like me. I rammed into an item left on the highway on I-40. It was like a trunk. You don't want that to happen. I had a lot of damage to my car. But do you see anything discarded that's maybe clothing or furniture or an animal? Or maybe you see something on a billboard that catches your eye. Or maybe if you're on a college campus, something that you see on the grounds, on the campus lawn, in the cafeteria. And if you're at work, oh my goodness, there's lots of poignant images that you can write down at work. I just worked with a senior project student, Kaylee, who had started an entire chapbook of work poems working in a restaurant. So you could say oh, nothing happens there. Oh my goodness, lots of stuff happens at work. And I happen to be a working class writer poet. That's my scholarly emphasis and study, and so I have a heart for things that happen at work. But is there an image of someone maybe helping someone, or a mother and a baby that you saw, or someone, it could even be just something in your house or kitchen, the steam rising over the teapot in the morning, or the colors in your coffee when you get the cream just right, if you're a cream person like me. And also a coffee purist, but maybe it is just some imagery in your kitchen or your home. So you make this list of images, right? Okay, good. Then you make another list. There's going to be like 3 columns. You make another list of things people have said to you. Maybe just bits of dialogue, things you've heard. They could be things that you've heard that haven't been said directly to you, like you're in a public place and you hear those little juicy bits of dialogue and you want to write those down. Or it could be something that someone said to you and it really, it cut you a little bit, or it hit home, or it made you think. Or maybe there's words that you said to somebody else that, I don't know, you regret, or they're just coming back into your mind. Just go with whatever they are and write them down. All right, so you have your first list of images, you have your dialogue, things spoken, said, words, awesome for a poem to give it life and depth and action, right? So the third list are the things that we usually don't want to directly put into a poem, direct statement. We always try to avoid direct statement. But these could be thoughts. These can be where your own opinions come in, your own statements, like something that's been on your mind. I hate this, or I'm irritated by this, or I love this, or something that's been festering. It could be emotions of anger, emotions of sadness, emotions of grief. Maybe it's been the 100th day since you lost somebody. So something like that. Or maybe an opinion, like maybe it's going to end up being a political poem, or an opinion about anything in the world, healthcare, religion, anything. These can be a little bit philosophical, right? So that's your philosophical emphasis. Now, what do we do? What do we do with all these lists? Well, you could really do it a number of ways. You could go back to your images and start to enhance them and start to free write on 1 or 2 or 3 that you think are the most resonant to you, okay, or speak to you. And you could just start a free write, and maybe that's going to get you a poem, and right on if that does. And maybe you want to do it a little different way. You want to take the 3 columns. If you have your piece of paper, you have these 3 lists, and you want to do a matching game. So you want to take an image and you want to match it to something, some of the dialogue. Or maybe you want to do a complete crapshoot and you want to take, this is another way to do it, take an image, take a piece of dialogue, take a thought. Take another image, take a piece of dialogue, take a thought. Or in different incremental ways. You might take 3 images with a little free writing and then boom, a little dialogue, or 2 images and a free write and a little dialogue, or a little thought, a little opinion, little statement. Mixing these up is the key. That is the key to the prompt. So like I say, it's kind of like some prompts, you just sit down, okay, like this is your prompt, here's your words. This is a little bit, I think, journal/poetry prompt, because you could just keep going with this in your journal and keep this, keep the image bank. I always tell my students, go back to that image bank. When you're uninspired, go back to that dialogue you wrote down. People are always saying things to us, right? And sometimes we don't like it. In fact, I was just talking to a colleague friend on the phone the other day, and she was telling me some truths that someone had spoke to her, and she was like, I didn't like it. And then we were talking later, like, well, maybe you didn't like it because it was kind of true. And so sometimes those things take time to work out in your mind. So all those things that are going on all week, all those things that are going on in your busy life all day, they'll find a place in your journal. This is great if you're not actively able to set like 3 hours aside to write every day. You get this in your journal in the morning. I've been doing a lot more journaling since I broke my foot, and really just since break. So, well, break. And I didn't mean to make that terrible pun. So, yeah, I'm trying to learn a lot through this process, and I am trying to be really committed to my journaling. And I'm finding that my journaling in the morning is going into a little bit of essay material, but generally, usually, always it goes way more into poetry material. So I will be interested in seeing what you get out of it. I don't really have a name for this. I can kind of call it the image bank, or the image dialogue thoughts bank, whatever you want to call it. I'll also put this on my fledgling and new YouTube channel that I think I started one a long time ago. I'm going to find it and put it on here. And this is the first of some of my more recent tips for you. I want to get back into doing this, especially since I'm going to be homebound for quite a while. So I hope you enjoy that. Let me know what it gets you by either writing me at ThePinkTypewriterPoet. You got to put the Pink Typewriter Poet, or you can reach me on Substack at my Matters of Place blog. So tune in next time. I'm Sandee Gertz. Thanks for joining me. Happy writing.